Voices and noises mingled and clanged. Tyrion see love, wondering, anticipating, chuckling, trying to quiet a little gnawing of questioning confusion that seemed to be scratching him from time to time. Old Ty was caught up in it for so long, it didn't seem so bad anymore. It seemed less and less like a hassle. But what the fuck? A habit ain't no real hassle. A habit you do in your sleep. You can't think about it, you just do it. And a habit creates its own habits. When a book says, if you read this, be careful, you should probably pay heed to what you are getting yourself into. Requiem for a Dream by Hubert Shelby Jr. Most of you probably know of the movie. Yeah, the messed up shit everyone watched in college, or are aware of the theme song in one version or the other. If not, well, good for you. They were all suddenly silent as they listened through the Dream On lines, each in their own way, thinking they didn't need anyone to dream on, that this boss shit did the job just fine. The voice so filled with nostalgia that you could almost see the memories floating through the blue smoke. Memories not only of music and joy and youth, but perhaps of dreams. They listened to the music, each hearing it in his own way, feeling relaxed and a part of the music, a part of each other, and almost a part of the world. I knew of the song and the movie, and now know of the book. Too intimately. Wow. Is it that long ago? Tempers really forget us, eh? Sometimes it seems to stand still. Like you're in a bag and you can't get out, and somebody's always telling you that it will get better with time, and time just seems to stand still and laugh at you and your pain. And then eventually it does break, and it's 6 months later. Like you just got your summer clothes out, and then it's Christmas, and in between there are 10 years of pain. They laughed and clung like skin to each other, and the music continued to drift through the smoke and laughter and through ears and heads and brains and minds, and somehow came out on the other side undisturbed and unchanged, and everyone felt good, man. I mean, real good. Like they just beat a murder rap, or made it to the top of Mount Everest, or got heavy with skydiving, or floating through the air like a bird. Yeah, soaring and floating on the currents like a bird, just like a bird, man. Yeah, like they were suddenly cut loose, like they were suddenly free, free, free. I have shared the experience of escape, feeling resurrected, getting lost in feelings and experiments in a manner too indulgent, and came on the other side holding onto a phenomena too dreamlike to be explained. There was no sense in ruining a good high with work. The night was warm and humid, but they weren't too aware of the weather. They knew it was warm and humid, but it remained a fact outside themselves and not something they were experiencing. Their bodies still tingled and tensed slightly from the poppers and the laughing, and they also felt loose and cool from all the pot and the hash. It was a delightful evening or morning or whatever it was. There was a sky somewhere above the tops of the buildings with stars and a moon and all the things there are in a sky, but they were content to think of the distant street lights as planets and stars. If the lights prevented you from seeing the heavens, then perform a little magic and change reality to fit the need. The street lights were now planets and stars and moon. Yet somehow, everything that was happening became progressively easier to ignore. The lies came out easily and believingly. Whatever chances they had to take, they took automatically as their need ordered, and they obeyed. A small part of them wanting to try to resist, but that part shoved so far down that it was no more than an ancient dream from a previous life. Only the insatiable and insane need of the moment had any bearing on their lives, and it was that need that gave the orders. It It was something like a memory that was trying to come back but wasn't quite making it, as he was trying to push it so he could find out what it was. But the more he pushed, the more it hid behind the corner and got him lost in the darkness. He felt something draining out of him, and whatever it was being replaced with a sense of relief. Harry and Marion got off on the last of his stuff and made it to the couch, grooving behind the high and the music. There was a softness in the music that they automatically focused on, a softness in the light that glowed from top and the bottom of the shades and glowed in widening circles, and filtered through the multicolored sides of the shades and ever so gently pushed the darkness into a far corner and soothingly coated the room with a hint of color that was friendly to their eyes. And there was a kindness and tenderness in their attitudes as they held each other and turned their heads to avoid blowing smoke in each other's face. Even their voices were low and gentle and seemed a part of the music. You know something? I've always thought you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Marion smiled and looked up at him. Really? Harry nodded and smiled. Since the first time I met you. Marion looked at him almost pleadingly. I just don't know what I'll have to do to get it. What Marion said was obvious and inevitable, but Harry's need forced and allowed him to quickly sidestep the obvious before the truth registered enough to alter his desires, and he shrugged the suggestion away. Don't sweat it. Marion got her wish. The dilemma was solved. As long as they could share, they felt close, and that was important. And whenever they started to feel the chills of fear and the grinding of anxiety, they simply got off and melted all the cares and concerns away with its warmth. The entire ritual was symbolic of their life and needs. She tried to talk herself into a feeling of familiar comfort but failed. Everything continued to feel strange. She tried to scare away or at least obscure the feeling by telling herself it was all the same, all the same. All the same as all the other times, but the feeling persisted. She tried desperately to continue, but an inner voice was mocking her, and the truth wormed its way through every inch of her being. She knew, and Harry knew, they were in love, but they both knew. She swallowed a scream and almost started crying. And so she chanted her mantra. It was the same, and though it did not make her feel clean, it allowed her to do what had to be done. And she just reminded herself from time to time that it was the same, it was the same, it was the same. He didn't mind the physical discomfort because he could dwell on it and avoid the things that were going on in his head, the things that were progressively growing and developing into images as well as words, images, and words he didn't want to see or hear. And the images and the words no longer just vaguely floated around within him, gently pushing against his consciousness. Now they were suddenly flashes in front of him, almost as if they were outside him, thrusting themselves at him, and he could see. Will you lighten up and stop playing those guilt games with my head? But you call it madness. But I call it love. Feel like Marion yet? You do what has to be done, that's all. She felt Harry's hand and wondered if she was supposed to do or say something. Was she supposed to feel something about Harry? Was she supposed to feel sorry for him? For her? Was she supposed to regret something? She had vague feelings of regret, but they had nothing to do with this. She briefly wondered what the feelings were about, but she didn't pursue the thought. She felt fine, she felt warm, she felt at home, but inside she felt startled as there was a terrible battle going on within her. She knew what she was supposed to do, but her entire being was suddenly repulsed by the reality of it. Her insides trembled and knotted. She gently moved with the flow and felt his words and kisses and feelings flow through her, easing away all her problems, her doubts, her fears, her anxieties, and she felt warm and alive and vital. She felt loved. She felt necessary. Harry felt real and substantial to fall into place. He felt on the verge of something momentous. They felt whole as they held each other and kissed and pushed each other's darkness into the corner, believing in each other's light, each other's dream. They seemed to be caught in some sort of trap. Addictions are crippling, especially when you long for home and end up making homes in people that you would wake up suddenly one day to realize that you are a habit and that they need a break from, and leave you paralyzing you with the never questioned before certainty of their being there for you, especially when you need them. Guess what? The joke's on you, always had been. You were just too blind to see it. I leave you to figure out what happened here just as the book or the movie leaves you, and keep wondering where, what, and when the end is. You make me feel like a person, like I am me and I'm beautiful. You are beautiful. You are the most beautiful woman in the world. You are my dream. Do you know how many seconds it takes for a dream to turn into a nightmare? Once again, this is Adya. If you've reached the end of the episode, you probably like what you're hearing. I would love to hear from you as well. Please reach me at the Instagram page for this podcast @What Saves Me From Drowning. And please don't forget to follow, share, like, review, rate according to wherever you're listening.